Retro Now.
And welcome everybody to another episode of the Animanicast.
Hey, I want to talk to my lawyer.
I don't think so.
Hello? Hello, Mr. Lawyer Man?
Just what do you think you're doing?
I'll get it. Hello, law officers of Lobster and Lobster, Yakko speaking.
I'm in jail.
Really? I'm in jail. Let me dial in my associate.
Stop all this nonsense. Ouch!
Shh, quiet. Law officers of Lobster and Lobster, Dot speaking.
We're in jail!
Same! Maybe this is why we haven't made partner.
And welcome everybody once again to the Animanicast. This is the podcast that's dedicated to the animated series Animaniacs, as well as other shows in the Rugerverse such as Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toon Adventures, and Freakazoid. And here we explore the series episode by episode, revisiting all the cultural references and gags, and of course, in the end, we give every episode a Water Tower rating. And we are continuing today our discussion of the Animaniacs Reboot today with Episode 5. I am Joey, and joining me are my co-hosts, Nathan.
You're the boss, Mr. Weenie Walkers.
And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hello.
Hello. Well, we're here. We're all getting ready for Christmas and everything and the holidays. So we figured, why not go do an episode that just coincidentally happens to mention Santa twice?
Yeah.
And is very dark in some parts.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Well, if you could describe Episode 5, by the way, I should say, includes the segments Good Warner Hunting, No Brainer, and Ralph Cam. Nathan, Kelly, if you were to be asked, by, say, me, how would you describe this episode in just a few words? What would you say, Nathan?
So this is like hypothetically if you had asked me?
Hypothetically, if I had just asked you on a podcast.
I'd say it's like a controversial episode, maybe. I maybe love it or I hate it. I don't know. One of the two.
All right, Kelly. And what about you?
I'd say we see some familiar characters.
Yes, we do. Maybe not in the way that we wanted to, but yes, we do. This episode, as we all know, premiered on November 20th of 2020. And Nathan, why don't you tell us what happened? Give us our November 20th trivia.
Oh, man. So the year is 1947. We have Princess Elizabeth. She gets married today to Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, who becomes the Duke of Edinburgh at Westminster Abbey in London. Of course, later Princess Elizabeth would become Queen Elizabeth II. Is that what she is? Yeah. So that's a little 1947 that happened. I could tell you other things. I don't know.
We got to save a lot of them, though, don't we? I mean, how many do we have?
I don't know. How about this? In 1805, Beethoven's only opera, Fidelio, premieres in Vienna. There you go. There's two fun facts for you. November 20th.
Beethoven. Those people who are fans of The Crown, there you go. That's your connection to Animaniacs now.
Yeah.
So I've yet to see The Crown, although my wife loves it and she's seen.
Good. It's really good.
Yeah, she really the latest season with Princess Diana is she really liked it, and I've seen clips of it. I've seen like Gillian Anderson, that's her name, right? Doing the Margaret Thatcher, which it was like, oh man, I remember seeing Margaret Thatcher as a kid. Just it was Ronald Reagan and this old lady in England. That's who I remember. It was, so there we go. Anyway. Well, let's go ahead, I guess, and get right into our discussion of episode 5. And I think we'll start with the variable verse because we often forget those these days. And what was today's? It was Forbidden Domainy, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Forbidden Domainy.
Yeah.
I was doing that off of memory, by the way. I didn't even look at the notes.
You saw what she was Googling or looking for?
No, I did not until I saw the notes right here. She says, "Is there a god pigeon?" Now that's pretty funny.
There you go.
At first I didn't think that that little variable verse was funny at all. But yeah, putting in god pigeon, that's cool.
And it kind of relates to the episode, so that's good. It's one of the few variable verses that actually somewhat relates to it, so that's good.
Yeah, that's true. That's something they did in the classic show from time to time.
Yeah. Did we talk about the comic book guy reference in the theme song?
Well, I mean, there's I guess it's like the worst.
Yeah, he says worst theme song ever, and then his name is graphic novel guy instead of comic book guy.
Okay, so there you go. That's yet another thing that we forgot to mention.
We mentioned Mr. Lolhead, though.
Mr. Lolhead, yes.
I think we did. So, but yeah, I was like, oh, it's graphic novel, but I get it now.
Yeah, this theme song. I got to be honest with everybody. I kind of skip a lot. I like the original theme song a lot more because I just looking at all the other characters. This new theme song is so self-reflective, so self-referential, I should say, that it's just kind of like, yeah, I get it. I don't need to keep seeing that joke. It was kind of like cute, I guess, the first time in the first episode, but I don't know. Especially,
I never understood what they were saying. I still can't. It still doesn't sound like they're saying we did meta first.
We did meta first. Now that I know what they're saying, I can hear it.
It doesn't make sense to me still. I'm like, what does that mean?
Well,
it's too meta. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's so funny because meta in a lot of ways just kind of doesn't it kind of mean like you're breaking the fourth wall essentially, and you're looking at the audience, you're acknowledging the audience. You're so in no way did Animaniacs do meta first,
but before the fans, they did it before the fans did. The fans will say we're so passé, but the Animaniacs did meta first. Like what?
Yeah, which is not. Yeah. Okay. I'm not. The more I think about it, the more confused I'm going to get.
It's too meta. It's too meta. You just don't get it. You just don't get it.
Yeah, it's too meta. That's why it's not funny. Well, at any rate, let's go ahead and get into an episode which I think is going to be very interesting to talk about. It's called Good Warner Hunting. And Good Warner Hunting was written by Lucas Crandalls and Timothy Nash, and it was directed by Katie Rice. And Nathan, why don't you tell us what happens here in Good Warner Hunting?
Ooh, boy. Okay. So the Warners are sitting around outside their water tower going like, what are we going to do today? Maybe, and they're just pulling out slips of paper from a hat. Like maybe we'll get a cow that's a narcoleptic and also a vampire. That's who we'll fight today.
Not just any hat, by the way, but it was Wacko's hat.
Yeah, Wacko has his hat off.
Which is very rare occurrence. And he looked pretty cute without that hat on. He looked nice, like this hairstyle, I guess, without his hair. His hat, I should say.
Yeah, he still has his hair.
Am I kidding? Face it, guys, we're out of ideas.
It does feel like we've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting in this reboot.
Yeah, didn't the show used to have more characters?
And there was a little trivia for the listeners. There were other characters in the Animaniacs besides the Warners.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, what happened to Minerva Mink and all these other characters? And then cut to Dr. Walter Grubb's house. And he's like listing all the other Animaniacs characters as well. He's got them all on his wall, mounted up like
we don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
Well, he's like, oh, I just need 3 more. And he shows the mount. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of know. I mean, but they don't show the big reveal quite yet.
Well, still, he's saying, I need 3 more to get my collection. And he looks at 3 empty mounts on the wall where he wants to, and he's a hunter, this Dr. Walter Grubb. We don't know his name yet. But he's like, okay, finally, I'll get my completed Animaniacs collection. So he sneaks onto the lot, dressed as some woman holding a baby. He unzips himself, he becomes himself, and he unzips the baby to become a shotgun, and then he smells some bologna in the air, so that means there's the Warners nearby because they got bologna in their slacks.
Baloney. They're close.
How about a narcissistic big game hunter with unusually small feet?
Well, that's convenient.
Oh, look at his tiny tootsies. Let me get that for you, baby.
They go meet Walter. They find out that his name is indeed Dr. Walter Grubb, and he's collecting, specimens like different animals to complete his collection. And the Warners are actually quite for it. They even volunteer to become taxidermy. He's like, no, you have to run, and I have to go catch you. They find out that he's married, even though he's not the most pretty looking.
Pleased to meet you, Freakfoot.
Wedding ring? You must have a great personality.
Or he's rich.
Maybe it's a green card marriage.
La Signora Grubb loves me very much, thank you.
So, cut to next day, he's sees them playing in the Friends Fountain, and he has some, sleeping darts. So he hits them with the sleeping darts, and it's time for them to hit the hay, which they literally hit the hay. And they start saying goodnight to everyone, including the hunter sneaking up on us with a net. And he then has to read them a story because he's like, you see me,
Once upon a time, there were 3 little Warners and a poor man's Elmer Fudd. Did this book just insult me?
It's our favorite story.
Yeah, mister, don't stop now. Get to the good part.
So the hunter stared angrily at the sweet children harboring resentful thoughts. And the hunter never realized that the whole thing was a trick to get him to fall asleep. Oh, for heaven's sake.
Next day, he's setting up a little trap. So he gets the little lasso rope and puts a little, ice cream in the middle. And each of the Warners comes and grabs some food. And every time, the first time, it gets him by the foot, then it gets him by the waist. It's getting the hunter instead each time. And the last time, he actually just, combusts into flame randomly. At this point, he goes to the water tower. He's like, guys, I'm retiring.
Hamster hoppers, to what do we owe the pleasure?
Here to try and catch us again?
Not at all, my fine animated friends. I'm not going to hunt you anymore.
Well, how come, Shrimp Slippers? Aw, is it 'cause you're real bad at it?
Oh, very good. No, not because I'm bad at it. No, it's because I've decided to retire from hunting, you see.
It's because he's bad at it.
No, it's... It's because I want to preserve cartoons like yourselves for future generations. I've got a new mantra, you see. Take only photographs, leave only footprints.
Baby-sized footprints.
Not baby-sized footprints! Regular-sized footprints, regular!
It turns out, though, his camera is actually a net. So when he takes a picture, he throws a net around the Warners, and then that's how he catches them. And that's when he shows them, this is my house, and look at on the wall are all the dead characters from the Animaniacs, all the ones you love, Skippy and Slappy and the Hip Hippos. Everyone's here.
As you can see, you 3 will make a fine addition to my collection.
Oh, so that's why the Goodfeathers never responded to my LinkedIn requests.
But it gets better. This will be your new home until I mount you on the wall.
It's a gay old time. The Warners have a whole bit about calling their lawyer, which each lawyer is just the other Warner, so they're all in jail or whatever. And then they're like, all right, well, it's time for you to go into your new home, which is like a water tower with spikes on it. Like, oh, scary. And they're like, oh, wait, there is one character that you must not have gotten, right? They start naming these characters, and then they're like, what about Boo?
What about Boo?
Boo who?
Oh, don't cry, Mr. Man.
I'm not crying, and I've no idea what you're talking about.
Come on, Chicken Boo, the big old chicken.
He wears a disguise to look like human guys.
I can see why you haven't heard of him. He was the least popular character on the whole show.
Well, I'm sure he wasn't the least.
Bottom of every fan list!
He's sweating a lot though. This Walter Grubb, he's sweating. He's even leaning over, kind of like a chicken. And it turns out that Walter Grubb was Chicken Boo the whole time. So he breaks out of Walter Grubb's skin. It's very weird. His tiny feet turn into large chicken feet.
So, you hunted down every character from the original cast of Animaniacs one by one just because you were left out of the reboot? What the?
We find out that it was Boo because there's a contract that says Chicken Boo cannot be in the season no matter what. So he was in this.
He was. He showed down.
He's actually the only one with any lines of the characters.
Sort of, yeah, I guess.
And they're like, "Oh no, Chicken Boo got away," and they're like, "Well, I think he'll get his comeuppance." And cut to outside, all the characters that were dead are now alive again, so that's good somehow. And they're pulling off their mounts around their necks. They're pulling them off, and they chase Chicken Boo off, and that's how it ends.
That's how it ends with Chicken Boo being...
We get that theme song, yeah. Wear disguise, look like human guys. Man, you're Chicken Boo.
That's how it goes.
There you go.
And if you're playing it, it's twice the speed or something.
I know. I'm guessing there's a lot of people playing it twice the speed and just...
Chicken Boo, what's the matter with you? You don't act. You're not a man, you're a Chicken Boo.
Well, yeah, so this episode, boy, oh boy, did I ever see an episode that I really liked, and then I had, feelings changed pretty quickly in this episode. But let's talk about the stuff we liked. Kelly, what are some of the things here in Good Warner Hunting that made you laugh, or things that you liked?
I liked seeing Chicken Boo again. That was cool and unexpected. I mean, it had been spoiled by people on Twitter. So,
Yeah.
Because I didn't watch the episode, the day it came out. But they kept it a secret until he revealed himself when you watch the episode. And then I thought it was funny that Mime Guy was in a glass box. And it's not funny that he's like trapped or dead or taxidermied or anything like that. But it was funny that he's in a box because mimes always do the box.
See, I think he's like in two different places. I saw him mounted as well. I thought it's so weird.
I know I saw him in a box. So
He was definitely in a box, yeah.
But I saw like a guy. Yeah, I saw a human head with they're all background characters, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Skull head.
No, it had like a clown. It looked like a person with a clownish nose. So that's why I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing things. I don't know. But they had. Even Mindy's head was up on that wall, which was very weird. Yeah, our friend Joanna Davidovich, I should say. I almost gave her a new name there. Joanna Davidovich, who's been on our show, put out a really great video talking about the things she liked about the reboot and the issues that she had. And one of the biggest issues she has with the reboot was really how dark this episode got and all those heads. And she theorized that the whole ending felt kind of tacked on. And I kind of agree. I kind of feel like they were going to go all the way, like the characters are dead, and then had to take it back a few steps. But
yeah, I feel like there was rewrites on this. Like just the fact that the hunter has tiny feet confuses me when Chicken Boo has giant feet.
Well, and that's true. And I will say the tiny feet jokes, I really like those. There's
Yeah,
a
I
lot
really
of them. There's that whole. Let's just talk about the beginning part.
Yeah.
So, I liked the beginning part. I liked the tiny feet jokes and the putting the booties on, and and talking about Senora Grubb.
I like the hunter himself. Like, I thought his delivery's funny for all his he makes me like, I actually genuinely laughed quite a few times from different things that the hunter was doing and what the Warners are doing to the hunter. I thought it was really great.
Yeah. and then it actually goes into catching them and then putting them in the thing, and then it just got really weird. And I some people liked it, and I guess we should get into some of our issues, and I'll try to hold back as much as I can. So let me know if I'm getting to. These are my opinions. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just my opinions. I really don't think that, number one, putting Chicken Boo in that position was the correct move for me. I mean, I understand Chicken Boo dresses up like that, but he was never an evil character, number one.
Yeah.
Never somebody who would try to kill other characters. He was always the most innocent, brainless character on the original show. The show, because even in the original, he's like, there's nothing going on in the brain of Chicken Boo. I mean, he would suddenly, he'd just be kind of looking off into the distance, like, what's that? He's being a chicken. And of course he would, for those moments where you'd have to turn on his dance moves or whatever,
do a ballet or something.
Yeah, he'd do it, but it would be sporadic, and then you go back to being the brainless chicken again. And they kind of did that with this. I mean, obviously he's evil, and then he's brainless, sort of. But they credit Frank Welker as doing Chicken Boo's voice, but that did not sound like Frank Welker. I mean, I know Frank Welker is older, but that just sounded like if I were doing Chicken Boo, I just go "Paka!" like that, and that's not how Chicken Boo's supposed to sound. It's a guy doing a chicken voice. I just don't think it was Frank Welker.
I don't know. Maybe he just didn't have the heart into it. He's like, I don't want Chicken Boo to be evil.
Yeah, Paka.
I mean, I assume it's him because I don't know why else you would.
I don't know why either, but I would certainly think like there was some great, easy Pakas you could take from the original series and just plop those in instead. If I don't know. I think the main issue I have with this is that I'm going into it. My vision of my interpretation of what I'm seeing on this is being a little clouded with what and you guys, I've shared this stuff with you, and I don't want to get into specifics, but the stuff that we've heard from behind the scenes, for what's been said by people, the executives kind of behind the show, not Steven Spielberg, but for other ones that basically we've been told that they were not fans of the original series, and that one of them, in fact, would outwardly mock and make fun of the original characters and how lame they were and how, things like that. The stuff that we've heard from behind the scenes and stuff, it really kind of clouded my what I'm seeing on this, as they wanted to kill off the original characters.
Yeah. It seems like the stories, like the whole subplot of him collecting all the Animaniacs characters is almost separate from, like, if I cut that out, I'd love the episode. Like, yeah. And the thing is, I do like seeing all the original Animaniacs here. Like, it's like I'm glad they're in the season, but I just wish they were in a different capacity. But like, I'm glad I get to see them again. But yeah, I that's why I have like very mixed feelings about this episode, where like I think it's one of the funniest. There's some of the funniest parts I think are in this episode, but also some of the parts I hate most about season 2 are in this episode too. Yeah,
it just goes to me like, and you're right. It's like we knew that the characters were going to have some sort of cameo, It's what we were told. Like there would be some sort of cameo, some sort of brief appearance, and
I guess that if anyone were to come, it would be Chicken Boo.
That's true. You were right.
I was like, I bet if they could get anyone in, most likely it would be Chicken Boo.
That was a prediction. That was not based off of anything we actually heard.
There was no leaks or anything. That.
Yeah, that was just total Nathan prediction. You got it, Nathan. Good job. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just, to me, when I see stuff like this, and I don't think that the writers, I don't think that Lucas, Crandalls, and Timothy Nash, I don't necessarily think I think they are good guys, and they're I'm sure they're fans and everything of the original series. I just think it's those people in more of the producing side that really wanted to kind of like, we need, whether it's from genuine a distaste of the original series, or whether it's just, well, this is our show, we want to make, we're going to put our stamp on the Animaniacs as a IP for the future. Whatever the case is, I just feel that it feels like there's a repeated theme of that was the old show, and we're not doing that in this one. Whether it's a song, like we're going to sing a song, no, we're not going to sing a song.
Yeah, that was lame.
Yeah,
you don't want to sing educational songs.
Yeah, or just little things like just little details of like not getting the Charlton Woodchuck trivia on this one. That wasn't correct, right? It was they mentioned that Charlton Woodchuck appeared as in My Father the Tuna in episode 74, which actually that he was in episode 74, but it was the kid in the lid, and Charlton played that little, the substitute for the goldfish. And
he first appeared in 65 and the
yes.
We haven't gone through all the trivia things.
Well, let's go ahead and go through them real quick. Let's get through the references here. Let's make me less mad. So let's see. We got Rita and Runt and Skippy and Bobby and Pesto. We got Mindy Buttons. We have Farfig Newton, the Hip Hippos, the Mime, Mr. Skullhead's there. Steven Seagal and Walter J. Wolf and God Pigeon and Stink Bomb Bassett and Beanie the Brain Dead Bison are all mentioned. The Flame is shown, which I suppose he's still alive, right? And at least you can't kill a fire if it's still lit. And
it's still lit. So
although it was in a container having no oxygen, so that
it was dying.
That poor Flame. And let's see, any other quick thing? I mean, there was obviously just basically a lot of the characters.
Actun Baby was the one
That's right, Nathan.
Gotta say it.
Yeah, that was not in the wiki. So what's the reference here that they missed here?
One of the tourists sees when Walter Grubb is in the Friends Fountain, says Actun Babyfoot.
Actun Babyfoot.
And that should be probably a reference to Actun Baby, which is a U2 album or song. I don't know.
It's an album. Yeah, it's an album.
I just know from you talking U2 to me, they talk about Actun Baby.
Yes, Actun. I totally missed that one. Although I did like, certain things of that tour group, which they've appeared a couple times in this. It's a very long tour going through the Warner Brothers lot throughout these episodes. The Batman versus Superman. The Batman versus Superman joke I thought was pretty funny.
And if you look to your left, you'll see the soundstage where they filmed Batman versus Superman.
That was a good one. The title is a reference to Good Will Hunting. When I noticed that, I was like, Good Warner Hunting. Good
point. Good point there. Yes. It's so funny because the titles I think often get missed in a lot of the reference guides and stuff like that, because either they're at the time you think it's so obvious, or you just kind of overlook it and you move on to the verbal jokes instead. Well, anyway, it was I wish the side. I wish they could have found something to do with these side characters other than show them in a quick little angry thing and chase Chicken Boo off. I think there's a lot of potential in these characters, and it's just kind of sad that this season is not going to feature them more than this. And a lot of people are hoping for, like, you know, I see a lot of talk on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, where I hope in season 2 they have Slappy, and they're not going to have any more Slappy in season 2. Not in
season 2, that's for sure.
I mean,
season 2 is done. So.
Yeah, season 2 is like wrapped. They're just about to do the music on it. They're not going to. I would be incredibly surprised. It would be a very last minute thing, I would think, if they were able to throw in a slap. It's not. I mean, it's not impossible. They could still do it.
Yeah.
But
do not hold your breath.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I mean, if they get a season 3, which, like we were saying, I think they would get a season 3.
I think they'll get a season 3.
They had such a big premiere that I think
with no press.
Yeah, exactly. We were the only ones that were doing it for them. So you're welcome, Hulu. But anyway, is there any other things that we want to talk about for this first segment before we move on to our Pinky in the Brain segment? Kelly, anything else?
No, not that I can think of.
Yeah. Did you have, you got to tell me, Kelly, do you have the same kind of feelings I did on that, or were you, I don't know. Is it just me?
No, I mean, I agree mostly. I really do feel like they are actively trying to distance themselves from the original, like you said, and which is a shame. I mean, yeah, you want to kind of make your own mark and be a little different, but you also want to sort of respect and kind of, you know, pay homage to what was good and what worked, because that's what made the show great. I mean, that's why it's existing now, is because it was so popular. It's endured for decades.
Yeah. And I think and just one last thing, they got it wrong. Chicken Boo is not the least liked character.
Oh yeah. Like what?
Like I like Chicken Boo. I know a lot of people like Chicken Boo.
I didn't see Katie Kaboom anywhere.
When she was there, at the very end, she chases him off.
Okay, I saw Minerva. So, I mean, when you're talking about least favorite characters,
Katie Kaboom, Minerva, Hip Hippos, like
those are your bottom 3. I know that there is a crowd that is for Minerva, but we're not going to talk about that.
No, I'm not saying these are my least favorite. I'm just saying that
but I would say that
these are the ones that are.
Yeah, and if anything, have a hunting duo. Have it be Mr. and Mrs. Grubb, and then it turns out that they're Hip Hippos, because I could actually see the Hip Hippos as more villainous characters than...
He even mentions Mrs. Grubb, and he's married. Like, that's another... I'm like, he's married? Like, there's all this background that doesn't make sense to this character that I'm like, he's married, has small feet, and I'm like, oh, and he's Chicken Boo. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, so it really seems like a lot of this episode was kind of half...
I think they wrote the Hunter episode, which was like fabulous and great, and then like, oh, like, hey, you know, we could make it so he hunted all the other characters too. Like, oh, okay, we could do that. Like,
yeah,
that's my feel. Like the producers, like, oh, add the other characters in there, and it'll be really funny. Like they're all dead. Like, isn't that hilarious?
We know for a fact that at least one episode had a totally different, or at least a different ending, not a completely different ending. Mm-hmm. So some endings were changed of these episodes, and they were like animated and everything. Yeah. And we know that this is not like we know that some, at least I'm going to assume that a few, we know of one.
Well, and we also saw the script for the first episode.
That's true. And there's another one
changed. Yeah.
So there's been a few episodes then that have definitely had different endings and have changed and changed and changed. And this episode does feel like one that, you know, did have some rewrites and changes, and I don't like them.
So yeah, I didn't like that. I'm going to just chalk it up to a rewrite, and I say, like, great job on your first draft
of the first half.
Yeah, you know.
And then let's turn on and then move on to the second one right here, which is No Brainer. So let's talk about that. No Brainer was written by Kathleen Chen and Brian Polk, and it was directed once again by Katie Rice. And Kelly, why don't you tell us what happens here in No Brainer?
Alrighty. Brain is driving a nice car. And he's fleeing from the Yakuza, which is really interesting. And he's on the phone and driving, which is very dangerous. And he's telling Pinky this plan, but we don't hear the plan. And Pinky doesn't seem to be listening. He says, "Are you playing that Italian Brothers mustache game again?" And Pinky's playing Mario Kart. And then he says, "Look out for the banana peel." And then Brain actually, I guess, drives on a banana peel.
Pinky, listen carefully. Here's my plan.
Yup. Got it.
Pinky, did you listen to my plan?
Or are you too busy playing that Italian Brothers mustache game?
Watch out for that banana peel.
Pinky, stop talking about that game and...
I love this scene. It's a really great action-packed. I mean, it's like watching John Wick or something.
Yeah.
When I'm watching this scene. So I really love the opening. And so he crashes and wakes up, and Pinky's there, and Brain's all banged up, and he says, "How long was I out?" And Pinky says, "Oh, 5 years, give or take." And Brain looks, I think, at a newspaper or a TV or something. He says, "No, this says I've only been out 2 days." And he's like, "Well, I said give or take."
Maybe it's... Oh, dear. I seem to have short-term retrograde amnesia. I don't remember the plan at all.
Oh, I do.
You do?
We were going to put together a list of all the children in the world.
Yes.
Then, in the middle of the night, under the cover of darkness, we were going to sneak into all their houses.
Go on.
And put presents under their trees.
He gives this really evil laugh. And Brain says, no, that's Santa Claus. It's not what we do. So, and then he asks, "Are you pondering what I'm pondering?" And Pinky says, "But what if our dance routine was stolen by our crosstown rivals? Then we'd have to go first in the dance-off," which I thought was hilarious. That was kind of reminding me of like Bring It On or something, I guess.
Yeah. And we all know that Brain loves rhythmic gymnastics, so.
Yeah. So this gets really so convoluted because since Brain can't remember what he told Pinky, he remembers that the NSA records every phone conversation. So he's going to break into the NSA to get the recording of what he told Pinky. And in order to do that, they have to track down Edward Snowden, who, divulged all these secrets and everything, and I guess revealed that everyone is being recorded. So he's in hiding, and so they go visit him, and he's obsessed with plants. Like, that's his thing. It's interesting.
Look, Mr. Snowden, I, too, am a seeker of truth. Perhaps we can arrange some...
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you everything. It's sort of my thing. But I need something in return. If you're breaking into the NSA, I need you to bust out Jenny.
I see. Jenny is a secret accomplice, or perhaps the code name of an advanced algorithm?
Oh, she's beautiful. I can see why she gets her good looks.
Ah, Jenny is a houseplant, of course. Why was I expecting something not ridiculous?
Pinky's kind of the little mouse in the big suit this time, and he's driving, and they get through the security guard and say, "Love you," and he goes, "Love you too," and he's like, "Wait a minute, I don't love you."
Now, to get in, you'll need this forged ID card, and then you...
Hello?
Remember what Snowden said?
Oh, right.
Okay, you can head on in.
Thanks. Love you.
Love you too.
Quickly, we must reach the service entrance before he gets suspicious.
Wait a minute, I don't love him.
So they're chasing them, and they go in the computer room, and Brain is just in awe because they're surrounded by all these gigantic supercomputers that contain everything. So he manages to get the recording, and they're driving away on a cart in the room, and Pinky's like, no, we have to get Jenny because we promised.
Pinky, what are you doing? We must make our escape.
But we can't leave yet, Brain. We haven't found Jenny.
There's no time, Pinky. Besides, Snowden is clearly one CPU short of a motherboard.
But you promised, Brain. saying that a promise is a promise, 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 is a promise.
Fine. As long as you promise to stop talking.
No.
And so they go find the plant Ginny and drive back out. And again, this is kind of fast paced, just fleeing out. And then they park, and Snowden comes out, and he gets the plant, he's hugging it, and
Jenny! Oh, goodness, you've gotten so big. Oh, I promise I'll never leave again.
Oh, Brian, isn't it touching?
Yes, there certainly is a lot of touching.
then Snowden takes this like grappling hook and like flees off into the distance, and he's like bathed in this like soft light, romantic light while he does this. Interesting. And then they finally listen to the recording, and there's a neurotoxin that makes people sneeze.
I have discovered a neurotoxin that makes humans constantly feel like they're about to sneeze. But the only source is a rare exotic fern that used to belong to Edward Snowden. We must break into the NSA and steal that plant.
Pinky starts messing with the grappling hook. I don't know why. And then he goes out of the car and into the car. He says his life flashed before his eyes.
Got him! Oh, Brain, I just saw my whole life flash before my eyes. There was a part where we were in the car together, and then, shoot, I flew out of the car, and then we were back in the car together again. Oh, it has been a good life, my friend. No.
And he starts driving off, and Brain tells him that he needs to learn how to drive, and then he drives off a cliff. And he's like, don't worry, Brain, the Italian mustache brother will save us.
The end. Well, this Pinky the Brain was definitely a breath of fresh air from the first Warner segment for me. It was just good old classic, for the most part, Pinky the Brain. We have more Russia stuff once again.
You're obsessed with Russia this season.
They really,
back to
really,
Russia.
which, hey, Russia's back in the news once again. I guess we had a major security hack today, or in the last few days.
It was like 6 months ago that it started.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So good old Russia. Oh, Russia. What are you going to do? But anyway, this is a pretty classic Pinky the Brain stuff. Let's talk about the stuff we liked. And I guess Edward Snowden is the main reference, which, he was, and Mario Kart is referenced, in case you didn't realize that the mustached Italian man is Mario. But Edward Snowden was a real whistleblower, and he fled to Russia and got sanctuary there.
He's still there, right?
Maybe he's the one. Yeah, maybe he's the one that hacked into the American system. I don't know. It's got to be doing something for the Russians, I suppose, right? In order for them to be giving him sanctuary there. But who knows? Sanctuary. Well, at any rate, let's talk about the stuff that we liked about this Pinky the Brain. Let's start with you, Nathan. What are some things in here that you liked?
I liked when Pinky's in his little suit of his man suit. He has to hand over his card and just do what Edward Snowden said. And of course, Edward Snowden whispered the instructions to him, so he's whispers to the guy.
That made me laugh.
Inaudible whispers, yeah.
That was the one thing I think in this whole episode that I verbally just laughed out loud for that part. That really got me right there.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then of course the I love you too.
Yes, I don't
hurry
love him.
Before he realizes something's I don't love that guy.
Yeah, I don't love him.
That whole exchange was very funny. I do wonder how they get out of this falling off a cliff. I don't know. I feel like usually the Pinky and the Brains would end as we're back in the lab or
back
something.
In the lab, yes.
But so it's a very. And that's the only part that didn't feel like a Pinky in the Brain was the very end. We're just kind of and just ends. I think they should have. I don't know.
It has a very different beginning and a very different ending, right? Because the beginning,
yeah,
the term, I believe the term is in media res, right? For in the middle of things, it's like. When your movie starts off in a...
Which I like. Yeah, I like that. I thought that was great. So I guess if you're going to start it off with this action, you got to end it with some action thing. So
yeah.
Sure. fine. But yeah, I thought it was very, very funny. Lots of funny Pinky lines in this for sure.
I like the brains lines personally. I was, the whole, I will do whatever you say to make this. What does he say? He says, I will do whatever you say exchange. To make this interaction end. Or like Kelly, when you mentioned the, oh, it's so touching. Oh yes, that certainly is a lot of touching.
The Pinky, when he describes his whole life passing through his eyes, is funny. Where he's like, first I started off in the car, and then I was outside of the car, and then we were back in the car again. Oh, what a wonderful life I've lived.
So the brain thinks he has memory problems. It's like, well, Pinky's really, and Pinky does just fine.
Yeah, I thought for a second it would be funny if the plan really was something like Santa, where Pinky was telling him the actual plan. Get a list.
Yeah, that's true. What if actually it did have to do with Santa? That would have been funny.
That would have been fun. Like, yeah.
And it did kind of make me like, okay, so it's a plant that makes you feel like you're always about to sneeze, but Edward Snowden apparently has built up, kind of like Wesley in Princess Bride. He's built up iocane powder does not bother him anymore.
Yeah.
So this plant, Jenny, he loves it so much it won't make him sneeze. At any rate, it's some cute moments right here. Yeah, it was fun. Anything else? Oh, I guess I should mention, why is the security guard working at this? This poor security guard has this horrible claustrophobic disability. They need to do some more, workplace accommodations for this poor guy. That and as soon as he gets into an elevator, he has a massive claustrophobic attack. So I did feel sorry for that security guard at the NSA. But any other moments that you guys want to mention that you thought were funny? Kelly, anything from you?
No, I think I mentioned everything.
All right. Well, I guess let's go ahead and wrap it up with Ralph Cam. And Ralph Cam was written by Jordan Vandina, and it was directed by Katie Rice. And this is a different kind of, I'm just going to go ahead and call it a filler kind of cartoon. It's silent. There is zero music. There's only the sound of, I guess, the tape playing. But it basically covers Ralph going to sleep, like he does, in his little shack, and not doing his job. And Billy, I don't know, he has a medical condition. He went to sleep and he just fell asleep for a day or so. While the Warners, of course, are wreaking havoc, and they end up going into like a Halloween truck that is going through the studio, and a vampire is inside this Halloween prop truck, and the vampire is real. Dracula basically is chasing them all around. It goes into this kind of little plot of how are they going to stop a vampire. So they take the little guardrail, break it into wooden stakes, and it looks like they're going to use that, but it doesn't work. The vampire grabs both Yakko and Dot, and he's about to get Wacko, but Wacko grabs Ralph's... Oh, wait, I forgot to mention a thing. There's a discount blood bank truck came in, so they laid a trap for the vampire. They put little bags of blood all over Ralph. So they're chasing around. Doesn't work. The vampire's just about to get Wacko, but Wacko gets into Ralph's fridge and opens up a bottle of kimchi, which really smells, and the vampire turns into a bat and flees to go kill somebody else in Burbank. I don't know. The vampire survives. But that's pretty much it. There's zero music, zero sound. It's animated pretty well. But I didn't really see any references to anything. But what did you guys think about this? Kelly, let's start with you.
It made me think of like those found footage kind of movies, like Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
And even the silence. It was a little creepy, really.
It seems like they could have expanded on it. Like, why not have multiple camera angles throughout the whole studio? I guess that might make it a little too long and maybe make it a little too spooky perhaps. But yeah, it did kind of have that feeling of a thing. But I'd love to see multiple camera angles on this one, and to see it something like this a little longer. What about you, Nathan?
I thought it was fine. It was like funny enough.
Yeah.
I wonder if like when they're pulling things out of the hat at the beginning of the episode, it's like, well, the first one was like a narcoleptic cow who's also a vampire. This is a reference to this Cam, Ralph Cam. I mean, he's not a cow, but he's kind of large. And there's also a vampire there. So,
I mean, I guess it connects, right?
Sure. I'm going to say it connects. So we got another connection.
Maybe.
But yeah, he's definitely narcoleptic because like, he just drank a cup of coffee. And then as soon as he sits down, he falls asleep for 24 hours almost.
That's true. Okay, so that's a good connection. We're calling it a connection. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get to our water tower rating. Well, what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give today's episode? Nathan, I'm starting with you once again. How many would you give?
It's such a hard one. There are parts that I really, really loved. And there were parts that I really didn't like. So I'll just give it a kind of a medium-ish. I'll do 3. I'll do 3. 3 water towers.
All right. And Kelly, what about you?
I'm going to go with 3.5. I really liked the Pinky and the Brain. Thought it was funny and very well written. And it was good to see some, familiar characters in the Animaniacs, but I don't know. It was just kind of dark, and it was nice to see them all alive and okay at the end, but it was an odd decision to go that way.
Yeah, I got to go with and I almost want to give it a 2, but just because of that first segment was just, I really have such strong feelings about it. And again, some of that stuff I don't want to get into it because number one, it's just the stuff that we've heard from behind the scenes comes from people that I don't think are even working on the production anymore. So they might have an axe to grind, but the stuff that I've heard affects my opinion of this episode, and the stuff that we've seen. It's like you said, Kelly, I don't feel that they were necessarily respecting the original stuff as much as they could. Not necessarily that they should, but that they could. It seems kind of it's a weird feeling. So I'll give it a 2.5, but that's only because of the Pinky and the Brain was, I thought, really strong. And the vampire one was cute. Like that, even though I kind of wish there was a little bit of music in it, because I think that adds so much to the scene. But that kind of shows how strong the ending segment, I guess, was comedy-wise, that it still didn't necessarily need it to be amusing, But that's it for our water tower rating. So I guess an average of 3, which, that's not bad. Not bad. Let's go ahead and get to our contact information. Nathan, where can people reach you online?
Oh, Joey, I'm on Twitter, JangoFT. That's me.
And Kelly, what about you?
I'm also on Twitter, Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me at kelly@BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and as for the Animanicast, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and you can join our RetroZap Discord channel by going to discord.animanicast.com. We have pretty soon coming up our 200th episode, ladies and gentlemen. Can't believe it. We've been podcasting about Animaniacs for about 4.5 years now, which is insane. Hopefully, well, not everything's not set in stone quite yet. Hopefully, we'll have a really cool 200th episode coming up. I hope you all enjoy. But until then, if you want to get in contact with us, check out Facebook, Instagram. You can send us an email by going to animanicast@retrozap.com and send it to there. Speaking of RetroZap, subscribe to the RetroZap podcast feed because we are a proud member of the RetroZap podcast community, and there's fantastic podcasts that you can get delivered straight to your device for free, including this one. So just do it. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. So, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.